Hey, everybody, what's going on? Jeff Rieger, another episode of the Daily Ticket. This one for Thursday, October 12th, 2023. Happy hockey season, everybody. Officially, it's hockey season. Wings play tonight in New Jersey. And I thought to myself, who do we want to talk to when the Red Wings play to open up the season, a season that they could make the postseason for the first time in quite some time? I know. Bring in one of my favorite people in the world. One of the greatest announcers I've ever had the pleasure of listening to. They call him the people's announcer. He's been in Detroit forever. Of course, he's Mr. Ken Kal. Kenny, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Jeff. I thought we were going to talk about the Lions today.
We can talk about the Lions. Do you know that, and you got to admit this Lions team has got to be the best through 5 games that you've watched over the course of your life. They look good, don't they?
Yeah, they actually look like a good football team out there, and you expect them to win each and every Sunday that they're out there on the field. But, yeah, great for Campbell and company, and the Lions just got to keep on rolling. They're off to a really good start.
I'm telling you, they could get the 1 or 2 seed in the NFC. I say people should set their sights high. This is not the same old Lions. Why not? You'll get a kick out of this, and then we'll get into some hockey. But do you know that of all the good teams in the NFC, like the Niners are really good, the Eagles are undefeated as well. Then you're looking at the Cowboys are 3-2. The Lions are in that mix. The Lions have the easiest schedule of all those teams for the next 12 weeks. So it's never too early to look ahead.
Well, I'll tell you what, you have to play them on the field, right? I mean, on paper, it looks good, but this is professional sports, and we've seen that even with the Red Wings, right? Sometimes they go in, play teams that you look like they're overmatched, and the Red Wings come out and win the hockey game. We've seen it a couple times last year when Boston had all those points. So you just got to play them, and hopefully, as Dan Campbell says, you just got to keep stacking them. And at the end of the year, maybe they can have a home playoff berth and go far in the playoffs.
Speaking of the Red Wings, season starts tonight. You're in New Jersey, and the Wings are going to take on the Devils. I mean, how good is it to be back? And this is the deepest squad, without a doubt, of Steve Yzerman's regime. It's not even close.
Well, I think Steve Yzerman addressed a lot of issues in the offseason, Jeff, and there were a lot of areas that the Red Wings needed to improve upon. The goaltending position, the defense, the forwards, they needed a scorer. They went out and got Alex DeBrincat. They needed a backup goaltender. They went out and got James Reimer and also Alex Lyon, who I think all 3 goaltenders really played well in the preseason games. And that should bolster the goaltending core. And also on the blue line, you look at guys like Shane Gostisbehere that the Red Wings brought in, offensive-minded defenseman. He'll be generating offense from the blue line. That's something that the Red Wings needed, especially on the power play, too. I think he'll help on the power play. Jeff Petrie was a late addition.
Yeah.
He's a veteran presence back there on the blue line. Although he's getting up in age, he still can help out, I think. And more importantly, I think going into this season, what I'm really excited about is that the team is 100% healthy. There's no injuries that I know of. And when you think back over the last couple of years, it seemed like the Red Wings always started the season with 3 or 4 or 5 guys that were hurt or were playing injured right from the get-go. And that just doesn't bode well. So they're healthy, they're ready to go. And it'll be interesting to see what they do starting tonight against the New Jersey Devils.
Hey, Kenny, talk to me about that top line. Who do you expect to be in that top line? Larkin will center it, no question about it. DeBrincat's going to be on one wing. Is it going to be Lucas Raymond? Is it going to be David Perron? Is it going to be Michael Rasmussen? Who do you think is going to be on that top line?
Well, I don't know. We'll see tonight, right? But I have a feeling that it's either going to be Perron or Raymond over on the right side. And it really doesn't matter. What you want to do is you want to go out there and put your top line out. And if it's not working, then you have to mix and match, right? That's what good coaches do. And whoever's playing well gets the minutes out there. But, DeBrincat, to me, everyone talks about his goal scoring prowess, and he scored 40 goals a couple of times with the Blackhawks in his NHL career. But I see him more on this team as a setup man. And I look at him to score some goals, but really I think his value is going to be as a setup man, a table setter. And maybe it's Dylan Larkin who comes away with a 40-goal season maybe this season. And they seem to work well together in the preseason. They had a couple of nice power play goals. And, another guy that needs to get going, I think, and have a good year is Lucas Raymond. If he plays on that line, maybe he can generate some offense as well.
What about a couple guys that did not make the team? In your estimation, you saw all the preseason games. How close was Nate Danielson? And he's 19 years old. I mean, it's truly remarkable. Turned 19 just a couple weeks ago. And I'm looking at his stats right now. In 6 games, 2 goals, 4 points. Do you think he was close?
Yeah, I think he was close, but I just think he's too young, and the problem is if he sticks with the team, what happens? He's only 19 years old. What happens if he starts off good and then all of a sudden just goes downhill, loses his confidence? It's difficult for a young player. And to me, he's going to be a terrific player. I really liked what I've seen from him against NHL talent. And a lot of times when he played on the road, he was going against some of the best in the National Hockey League and, held his own out there. And what I really like about him is his overall defensive game. A lot of young players that come in the league, they're really good scorers. And that's what their bread and butter was, Jeff, in junior hockey, wherever they played. And then they come in the National Hockey League and, you can't put them out there because you can't trust them defensively. Right. But he, to me, was really good. His 200-foot game was good. And that's only going to help him out. And I think down the road, Nate Danielson's going to be a really good pro.
People are talking about Jonathan Berger and Simon Edvinsson. They too don't make the squad. Did that surprise you? I mean, it's only a matter of time, I feel, before they eventually will be up with the big club.
Well, it doesn't. And I just think if you look at what the Red Wings have done in the offseason and plugging holes, it made it hard for guys like Berggren and Edvinsson to make this team. There's always injuries. There's always going to be players who are going to be on the shelf for whatever reason. As I mentioned in the beginning, this team's 100% healthy. So that, you look at Jonathan Berggren and he just doesn't fit right now. What spot is he going to take on this team? Right. And who's he going to oust? So it's better for him, even though he played most of the season last year in Detroit. We know what he can do. And if there is an injury, you can plug him back in and you're not going to lose anything. And the thing I like about it is finally the Red Wings have some depth, and it's not like you're calling up minor leaguers that have no NHL experience and they're just playing 2-4 minutes a game. Berggren can come in and play 15-16 minutes and he's not going to hurt you. So all the experience that he's going to get again in Grand Rapids, and Edvinsson the same thing, playing in all different situations, power play, penalty kill, only going to help his development.
I put you on the spot right now, Ken. You have to answer this question. Are the Red Wings a playoff team in your estimation? I know Ottawa and Buffalo are thinking they're playoff teams. I know maybe you look at Boston, maybe fell down. They lost a couple players. Maybe people think that Florida won't be as good as their miracle run to the Cup Finals last year. Are the Red Wings a playoff team? Do they figure into one of those 8 spots in the East?
Well, I think they're going to be in the mix, and that's not answering your question. I know that. But, there are so many good teams in the Eastern Conference, and really, when you think about it, if you don't finish in the top 3 in your division, you're fighting amongst 8 or 9 other teams for 2 wildcard spots. That's it. So I think the Red Wings are improved, at least so on paper. They have to go out there and they've got to prove it. But I just think they're going to be an overall better team. I think offensively, they'll score more goals. Defensively, they'll keep the puck out of the net a little better than last year. And really, they only missed the playoffs by six wins last year, 12 points. So when you look at an entire season, if you play the same way that you played last year and just add one more win a month, you're right there in the end. And last year, maybe the Red Wings overachieved a little bit, but towards February around there, they're right in the mix of it. And they were one or 2 points out of a final playoff spot, if not even tied with, I believe, the Islanders at one point. And then they went to Ottawa and it all went downhill from there. But I just think that they're a better team this year. I think that they'll be scoring some more goals, better defensively, and we'll see what happens. But I think they should be in the mix and play some meaningful games in March and April.
I timed it, by the way. They were in a wild card spot for 18 hours.
Oh, really?
18 hours. Then they lost 3-0 to Tampa Bay, and then those back-to-back games against Ottawa. And it was kind of all downhill from there. Michael Rasmussen got injured, and they kind of weren't the same team. But
wasn't it amazing, Jeff? Wasn't it amazing though that 3-0 loss to Tampa Bay was probably their best game of the season?
Yeah.
And then wouldn't you know it, you go to Ottawa, and then that was their 2 worst games of the season. So if they beat Tampa Bay in that game, who knows what would happen?
It's funny because this year, if you're looking for teams that might not make the postseason, look at Tampa Bay. Vasilevsky's on the shelf for the first 2 months of the season. So you never want to see anybody injured, but that could be a major problem for John Cooper's team.
Especially early in the season when the Red Wings have them in the home opener, and that's coming up on Saturday. So, maybe the Red Wings could take advantage of that. But the goaltender that they have right now, I think his name is Johansson. He was lights out in the preseason. I mean, the guy played 2 playoff games, faced 67 shots, and didn't allow a goal. So that goalkeeping just keeps on going forward for John Cooper's club. But they're still a dangerous team, Tampa Bay. A lot of people say maybe the window's closing on them. But when you have guys like Braden Point still and Kucherov and Stamkos and Hedman, they're a solid group.
Yeah.
So the Red Wings need some luck. They need to play better this year. But on the other hand, they need some luck from other teams where some of the teams that finished maybe above the Red Wings in the standings need to drop a little bit so the Red Wings can catch them.
Couple more minutes with the great Ken Kal. Ken Kal, the people's announcer. All right, Kenny, I got to ask you a couple questions about your job, not maybe about hockey, but everybody knows you for, and I can't do it. I know Pat Caputo loves to imitate. He shoots, he scores. I've never asked you this. When did that iconic goal call come up? When did you somehow decide, or maybe you did, maybe it was organic, that this is going to be my goal call because all of Detroit loves it?
Well, I think growing up as a kid, I used to play hockey in the driveway with the tennis ball on roller skates. And I used to listen to Bud Lynch, and especially Bruce Martin. He was my favorite announcer. So obviously Bruce had the similar kind of call. And back in the day, like kids today can listen to any announcer on the internet,
Right.
And back when I grew up, if you didn't pull it in off the radio or you couldn't watch it on television, you didn't know what the other announcer sounded like. So I basically listened to Bruce Martin my whole life. And I thought, well, that's how you call a goal. So in the driveway, when I would, say, how did Delvecchio and Ullman scores? That's how I would do it. And so I never really changed it. I started out at Michigan and just did it from there. And it just carried through my career.
When you called, and you've called 3 Stanley Cup victories.
Four,
my bad. 2008, 2002, 97, 98. That's my bad. How often, if ever, do you go back and listen to those calls? And when they won the cup, like going into those games, did you have a thought of like, all right, if the Wings win the cup tonight, this is what I'm going to say? Or is it just totally organic? Because, in baseball, guys like have, okay, if this guy hits a magnificent home run and it's a milestone, I know what I'm going to say. Did you ever do any of that, or does it just come to you?
Well, let's go back to 2008 when I called you and I said, hey, I lost my voice.
I remember.
And if the Red Wings win the Stanley Cup, how the heck did I know what I was going to say, right? Because I didn't even know if I could do the game, which, luckily Ken Daniels gave me the mic for the last 15 seconds and I had enough voice to get it out. And
Osgood made that great save.
It turned out to be a pretty iconic call that people always remember. But no, I don't plan anything. I just go out and do it. And I think the simpler the call, the better. And when you think about it, these iconic calls, they make an announcer a little bit nervous because you have to make the right call. And if you don't, it's going to live with you the rest of your life, right? So think about it, like all the Stanley Cup final 10 seconds of the 97 or 98, people, they go down in history, right? People are always going to listen to that. So the pressure that I have is like, just make sure it's a clean call and everything will be good. It's funny because I was always a Red Wing fan, grew up here in Michigan, Jeff, and I wanted the Red Wings to win the Stanley Cup. And they went through many years of not winning the cup. And I said, geez, I really want to be in the city when they win the Stanley Cup, kind of like the Lions when they win a Super Bowl, right?
It's coming, right?
Little did I know, though, that back in the day that I would be the guy that would be calling the next Stanley Cup championship, right? So it's just amazing. I mean, I've had a really good career here in Detroit, and not many announcers in our business, as you know, grow up in the same town and get to call your hometown team. So I've been fortunate in a lot of areas. And you look at Dan Dickerson, he's the same way too. Grew up in Michigan, gets to call his hometown team. Red Wing fans, Detroit fans are terrific. And, you can't pull the wool over their eyes, and you just got to go out there and do your best. And if you do, they appreciate you.
The iconic Ken Kal, the legendary Ken Kal, because you're iconic and legendary. But I need to know, so of all the great calls over the course of your illustrious career, do you have a favorite? Do you have one moment that you think back to and say, I love that call, or I love that moment?
There's so many great calls over the years. And, I just think back to all the milestone goals that, Yzerman scored, his 500th, his 600th, Brett Hull, his 600th, the Stanley Cups. So many great plays that Datsuk made that I still can't figure out how I called the way he moves and the way he fakes goaltenders and puts the puck in the net. I always said he was the Barry Sanders on ice skates. He was terrific. But I don't know. I guess the one call that I really enjoyed, the game that I enjoyed was the Game 4 when the Red Wings beat Philadelphia. They won the Stanley Cup for a variety of reasons. One, it was the first Stanley Cup in 42 years. Secondly, I was a part of it. Thirdly, we brought back Bruce Martin, who was my idol growing up. And wouldn't you know it, he calls a cup-winning goal scored by McCarty on a tremendous play. Everything just worked out that night. And I still remember that night like it was yesterday, and fans crying because it's been so long, and just the feeling of accomplishment. after all those years of getting close but not able to win the prize. So yeah, I guess that would be the highlight of my career right now, as far as, there's not one particular goal call, but that whole night, that Game 4 night, was terrific.
I got two more for Ken Kal. Number one, who is the one guy, player, coach, whoever, that you've enjoyed dealing with the most? Like the one guy, your go-to guy over the years, whether he's retired, whether he's still playing.
I'd probably have to say Nick Lidstrom.
Yeah.
He was terrific. Like, you could approach him, and he was a big football fan too, and he really liked the Lions.
Was he?
So a lot of our talks on Sundays, like if we played on the road, the Lions would play at 1:00, and let's say we're playing in Buffalo at 7. On the bus ride over to the game, we get off the bus, and I talked to him a little bit about how the Lions played, and he was really a big Lion fan. So I enjoyed talking to him, but he was always good. He was always approachable. Out of all the years that I've dealt with him, I've never seen him angry. Never, not once. Usually
not even after losing to the Penguins in Game 7. I remember being in there.
Hey, we all have bad days, right? I mean, not every day is perfect, and you look at him, and honest to goodness, like, I have never seen him mad or upset. And it's just amazing, like, how a guy could be like that. But to me, to deal with him, you always got a straight answer. He always answered your questions. He was always polite and respected you for the job that you did. And, he was the go-to guy, I guess, and the guy I always enjoyed talking to. The other one was Igor Larionov. I thought he was really good to deal with too.
The professor. All right, last one for you. And I lied to you a little bit because I said I would only keep you for 15 minutes, but this might take a couple more minutes. I can't let you go. I have so many favorite things about Ken Kal. I mean, I love the name of your boat, the play-by-play. I know you love this time of year because you make them the coolest pumpkins and you really get into the Halloween thing. But more than anything, and you've told this story a couple different times, but you got to tell it to the people watching and listening. When you went to the White House with the Red Wings and Scotty Bowman was on your tail the whole time because you brought a cell phone trying to do a radio report into the White House after the Wings won the Cup. You got to tell the people that story. Then I'll let you go. One of the greatest stories ever. Come on.
Well, at the time we were on a different radio station, and Mitch Albom asked me to cover the Red Wings for his show in the afternoon. And I said, well, Mitch, like, Scotty's inviting me as a member of the team and not as a member of the media. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry. Here's a cell phone. And that trip we started was the first day of 10 straight on the road, right? So we get to the Senate office, and we meet the Michigan senators, and we provide them, Steve Eisman provides them with a jersey, and I'm there reporting. Scotty walked up to me and he says, hey, Ken, no. He says, you're not here as a reporter. And I'm trying to explain to him I'm doing this for, the Mitch Albom show and stuff like that. And he's like, no more. And I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? I'm in a bind here, because Mitch is expecting me to call him, right? So then we go to the White House, and I figure, okay, we're on this tour, and I'll get 2 rooms ahead of everybody. That way I can call into the show and then get the report, and I'll be okay, right? So we get in there, and I get all the way to like the green room or whatever, which was 2 rooms ahead of everybody else. And I get behind this door, and I'm calling into the show, and all of a sudden I see Scotty Bowman like flipping curtains, looking out the windows, trying to find me. He knew I was in there somewhere. And so I'm looking through the little crack in the door. I'm whispering, and next thing you know, the door opens up, and Scotty goes, aha, I caught you. And so he starts reprimanding me. What did I tell you about that phone and everything else? And then Mitch Albom's on the other line. He hears Scotty. He says, hey, is that Scotty Bowman? Put him on. I said, oh, Mitch, I says, I'm losing your signal here, and then I hung up, and Scotty gave me grief the whole next 10 days, So on that whole road trip, it was brutal, So finally, our last game was in Vancouver, and we get on the bus after the game, after all this torment that he's been giving me for the last 10 days, and his cell phone dies on him, right? He's trying to make a call. So he turns to me, he goes, hey, Cal, you got your cell phone? I said, Scotty, I threw that in the Potomac 10 days ago. So those are things that happen sometimes.
Oh, that's amazing. Did you let him borrow your cell phone?
No, I didn't. I didn't. No, heck no, I didn't. Like I said, I put it away in my bag, and there was no power or nothing. I didn't use it at all. So,
Ken Kal, listen, it's great to talk to you. I love you, and enjoy the call tonight. You got Wings and Devils to open up the season, and we'll be listening for sure. And thanks again.
All right. Sounds good, Jeff. And let's have a good season. And hopefully we'll be in the playoff hunt come March and April.
Well, the Lions are going to win the Super Bowl, or at least go to the Super Bowl. So then if the Wings can go back to the postseason, sports teams changing around. Michigan can win a national championship. It's all changing right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, the Tigers are getting better too, right?
Tigers getting better. Pistons are healthy. Come on, Michigan State. Go hire Urban Meyer. Everything's good.
City of Champions.
That's right. All right, Ken, get to work. We love listening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll join you tomorrow, another episode of the Daily Ticket. Bye, everybody.